In today's day and age, this is a stunning act of bravery and, yes, defiance. Two high school track stars refused to stand on the medal podium after placing in the Oregon State Championship for the high jump. Why? Because the athlete standing next to them was a biological male.
The trans athlete topic has sparked debate across sports, politics, and culture. We're going to take a look into the athletes on both sides and see what one study has to say.
Also in fifth place from Miami Wells, Leon Rose. Fourth place honors to Sherwood's Reese Eckerd. In third place from Tigard, Alexa Anderson.
Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckerd placed third and fourth, respectively, but tied for fifth was a trans athlete, Leah Rose. The two teens refused to take their places on the podium and turned their backs to it, quietly protesting a system that forced them and their teammates to surrender spots to a trans. Here to tell her story is Alexa Anderson, along with Jessica Steinman, Executive General Counsel at America First Policy Institute. Alexa, look, you finished ahead of the trans athlete in this case, but there's time and again instances where trans athletes have taken awards and 1, 2, and 3 spots from female athletes. Did you take a stand for them as well?
This was my first time competing against a transgender individual, so this is the first public stand that I have taken in this issue, but I have privately supported all other girls that have done the same with positive messages, commenting on posts, and just supporting them and letting them know I'm behind them in any way.
Alexa, what do you have to say to people watching across the country about the unfairness of this? Why is it unfair?
It's unfair because biological males and biological females compete at such different levels that allowing a biological male into our competition is taking up space and opportunity from all these hardworking women. The girl in 9th who should have been in 8th and had that podium spot had that taken away from her, as well as many others.
In all of those slots, Jessica, whether you're 8th or 5th or 4th, that all works toward, your points and your national standing. And so all of those places matter. People say, oh, she didn't finish first, second, or third, so it doesn't matter. But it does matter. And I think Alexa made that point.
It's crazy how loudly some people preach inclusion when it comes to transgender athletes, but they stay completely silent when biological women lose their scholarships, podiums, or roster spots as a result. Inclusion shouldn't mean excluding the very group women's sports were created to protect.
No, it's so important, Laura. And I want to say thank you to Alexa for really standing up for all the courageous girls out there and doing the right thing. And Laura, thank you for bringing attention to this national issue. I think one thing that we've talked about is access to the podium, access to those scholarships. And in this situation, not even just that access, but the First Amendment issue that came about when they were asked to and kind of sidelined from the competition here.
So tell us about that, Alexa. Being in any way ostracized or treated differently because you have a common sense view on this. A lot of young women are afraid to speak out or even do a silent protest.
Yeah, we stepped off the podium in protest, and as you can see in the video, an official kind of told us, hey, go over there. If you're not going to participate, get out of the photos.
So you couldn't even have your moment. That wasn't allowed. You had to stand forward, not your back to it.
Yes, they asked us to move away from the medal stand. So when they took the photos, we weren't even in it at all.
Yes. Well, you don't really deserve to be there because you just worked hard and you competed, and you've done it your entire life, by the way, which is a grueling sport that takes hundreds and even thousands of hours to perfect at any level. Jessica, I know America First Legal has filed discrimination actions in these cases. Briefly explain this to us. I think you filed a Title IX case.
Yes. So America First Policy Institute, we filed a complaint with the Department of Education asking them to look into the Oregon Department of Education. Here we're asking, so a Title IX, you're right, Laura, a Title IX violation, so the men and the women's sports. But on top of this, because of this weekend's race, that the women were excused, they were sidelined, they were told to get out of there. We also would like them to look at a First Amendment issue. And Laura, this is, you know exactly this. This is why the First Amendment was created. When a citizen has an issue with their government, especially about their own rights, they should be able to speak out. And these girls were not allowed to speak out.
Well, was there a rule that they had to face a certain way? I bet not. They'll probably write one if there isn't one. But I don't believe there's a rule in this case that you have to stand at a certain angle to be a legitimate athlete worthy of a photo on the podium that you earned your right to be on. Alexa and Jessica, we're following this case very closely. Continue to be a great athlete and a great role model, Alexa, for what you're doing. You're a star. Thank you very much.
It's great to see these women finally standing up and speaking out. They're pushing back, and I don't think it's out of hate. It's because they've worked so long for fair competition. And they're refusing to be erased in the name of so-called inclusivity. Now let's hear from one of the trans athletes.
AB Hernandez has been competing in track and field and volleyball here at Yoruba Valley High School in Riverside since her freshman year. It wasn't until this year, her junior year, that people started protesting her participation because she's transgender. But the 16-year-old says she just laughs off all the hate.
It's definitely crazy. I mean, I get a lot of hate comments, but I'm I don't care. 16-year-old girl with a mad attitude, you think I'm gonna care?
When AB Hernandez was outed as transgender, she had no idea what to expect next.
I mean, I kind of just tried to fly under the radar because, trans athletes get a lot of hate.
But soon protesters were showing up to her track and field meets, where she's been competing in triple jump, high jump, and long jump for 3 years.
They picked the right kid for us, the wrong kid for them, because like they said, we will not back down.
Protests followed her through the season, including the state championships last weekend.
It's just weird at this point. I mean, they followed me for a whole season, so.
While the few dozen protesters were contained to outside the stadium gates, what AB found inside of Veterans Memorial Stadium in Clovis was a lot of support.
Yeah, I mean, the support was just intense. I mean, I wasn't expecting any of it, to be honest. I was expecting to just go out there and compete alone. They really made my experience perfect, so I will be forever grateful for them.
Her biggest supporter was watching from the stands, her mom. AB came out to her mom in 8th grade, and while it was something her mom was surprised by at first, it's something they both say has only brought them closer.
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, there's some kids out there whose parents don't accept who they are, so very grateful.
Ultimately, AB was able to drown out the outside noise and ground herself in what she knows how to do best, compete.
I think that was my biggest thing on my head was don't scratch.
She'd go on to win 2 first-place medals and 1 second place. Those awards were shared because of a rule change shortly before the championship meet.
Did what I wanted to do. I PR'd and everything, so that's really what I was aiming to do. So all this backlash, I'm just I performed my best, so that's all I cared about.
It's frustrating how any criticism of trans athlete in women's sports is instantly labeled as hate. Really, it's about fairness. Speaking up for equal opportunity in female competition isn't bigotry. It's a valid concern about protecting the integrity of women's sports. Now let's look at the same athlete winning against females.
An update now to a story we've been following all week. Today, the trans athlete competing in the California Women's High School Track and Field Championship won 2 events. The meet drew national attention after criticism from President Trump. AB Hernandez finished the high jump with a mark of 5 feet 7 inches with no failed attempts. 2 other girls also cleared the bar at that height, each with a failed attempt. The 3 shared the first place podium because of a new policy that allows students to medal if they were bested by a transgender athlete. A protest plane circled today during the competition.
Now, when these trans athletes share the podium, they're given special medals or recognition. It doesn't promote inclusion. It diminishes the achievement of biological female athletes who trained for that moment. It sends a message that their victories matter less, just to avoid controversy. Let's look into one study and notice how they say assigned at birth.
Back in December, NCAA President Charlie Baker testified that out of the more than 500,000 total college student athletes, he believed fewer than 10 were transgender.
Last month, President Trump signed an executive order to ban transgender athletes from participating in girls' and women's sports. White House correspondent Laura Barone Lopez has a closer look at the debate around this issue.
The president's order was part of a series of moves targeting the rights of trans people. The order directed federal agencies to withhold funding from schools that allow transgender athletes to compete. The NCAA quickly changed its rules, limiting participation in women's sports to those assigned female at birth. And more recently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told consulates worldwide to deny visas for transgender athletes coming to the U.S. for competitions. Also, California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom broke with his party when he said that fairness is an issue, but that it's important for vulnerable communities to be treated with care. Dr. Bradley Anawalt is an endocrinologist and professor at the University of Washington. I spoke with him earlier, and he says that tension is at the heart of the debate.
In sports, we like to have a sense that the playing field is level, that there is fairness in competition. Another really important value in sports is that we want everybody to have an opportunity to play, particularly when we're talking about young people. And as a result, with this particular topic, there is apparent conflict between those two values.
And when signing his executive action banning trans athletes in women's sports, President Trump said this.
We will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
What does the science say about a competitive advantage or lack thereof among transgender girls competing in sports?
Well, the evidence is incomplete on that particular question. Best data we have really comes from military recruits, people that have been enlisted in the Army or the Air Force. A 2023 study, they have an annual test where they undergo a 1.5-mile timed run. They do as many sit-ups as they can in a minute and as many push-ups as they can in a minute. They had data from these individuals before they started gender-affirming hormone therapy, and then each year after that for up to 4 years.
Anawalt says even though the performance of trans women dropped after starting gender-affirming hormones, it took 2 years for their running times to fall in line with women assigned female at birth. The sit-up scores of trans women stayed higher until 4 years after they started hormones, but their push-up scores remained higher the entire time.
What we don't really know is what are the effects in elite athletes. Most of the data is from people that are not elite athletes. And the other thing that we don't know is how long and how significant are these changes over time.
This ban appears to include school-aged K through 12 children. What do we know about the competitive differences at those ages?
Most experts, there's a general consensus that before the age of puberty for boys and girls, there's not a significant competitive advantage between the two sexes. There are some data suggesting that there may be some subtle differences between boys and girls, but what's unknown is whether that's due to biological factors or if that's just due to societal factors and expectations. Boys being encouraged to participate more in sports and giving more opportunities to increase their strength and speed and power.
Anawalt has advised major athletic associations on hormone use in sports, including among trans athletes. He says there are many examples of genetic differences that can lead to competitive advantages in sports: height in basketball, bigger hands and feet in swimming. He points to a Finnish cross-country skier who had a rare genetic mutation that ramped up his production of red blood cells, significantly increasing his endurance. He won 3 Olympic gold medals in the 1960s.
None of these genetic variations or mutations have created the uproar that we're facing with the current controversy that we have around transgender athletes and participation in sports.
You've said we're never going to be able to answer the fundamental question about fairness when talking about this issue. Why exactly do you say that?
It comes back to this conflict between these two important values that I alluded to, the fairness and then the desire to allow everybody to participate in sports. And whenever you do that, there are going to be inherent inequalities between people. And how do we limit those inequalities and yet allow everybody to play? I really don't think that science is going to give us a perfect answer on this. We can get better and better evidence and data about the effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy on athletic performance. But ultimately, this is going to be a question for the general public to try to balance out those two very important issues. And it's also going to be an opportunity for us to ask the question, just how important are sports at the very highest level in our society. This whole debate rages around sports because of how much we venerate sports, and at this point in time, what an economic engine it's become.
It's clear to me that these athletes have an advantage over competing against women, and I really don't like how they say assigned at birth. I personally feel that teaching this to children when their brains aren't fully developed is dangerous and irresponsible. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.